Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. For a long time on this channel, we've really gotten into the nuts and bolts of the what and the how. We've designed neural networks together, we've traced packets as they zip across the internet, we've even analyzed the physics of silicon. But here's the thing. Every single protocol, every line of code, every machine learning model, it's all fundamentally a human creation. It carries the fingerprints of its makers, their goals, yeah, but also their blind spots and their values. And as our whole society basically finishes moving into this digitally driven reality, we're hitting a totally new kind of engineering problem. And it's one you can't solve with a better algorithm or more CPUs. We're talking about the moral questions that sit right at the heart of the systems we all build. So what does it actually mean to be a good citizen in a world that's literally built out of bits and bytes? Okay, let's get into it, because today we are laying out the ethical framework for navigating this new world, moving way beyond just simple online manners to our deep-seated rights and responsibilities as digital citizens.
All right, so here's our roadmap. First, we'll nail down what digital citizenship really means today, from both a tech and a social view. Then, we're going to tackle the ghost in the machine, that algorithmic bias that shapes everything we see. From there, it's the big one, the ongoing battle for our privacy. Then we'll talk about why building an accessible web is a moral imperative. Really, it's about inclusive engineering. After that, we'll get into the ethics of what we share, and finally, we'll pull it all together to help you calibrate your own moral compass for this digital age.
So let's kick things off with our first section. What even is digital citizenship? Now, if you remember the early days of the internet, maybe Usenet or old bulletin boards, you probably think of netiquette, those informal rules for how to behave. But today, the stakes are just infinitely higher, and the definition has evolved into something way more serious and important.
Well, the real question here is about scale and integration. How did we go from these little community-specific rules to what is now essentially a global social contract? The big shift happened when we realized the digital world isn't some separate place anymore. It's not a game. It's not a simulation. It is the main infrastructure for our economy, our politics, our social lives. That line between online and offline, it's so blurry it's practically gone. So just like being a citizen of a country comes with rights and legal obligations, being a digital citizen demands a similar framework. It's really about writing the rules for a society that now lives on the network.
What I love about this slide is the sheer jump in complexity it shows. Netiquette was all about managing signal to noise, right? Don't type in all caps because it's like shouting. Don't feed the trolls because it just wrecks the conversation. These were handy little rules. But modern digital citizenship, that's a whole constitutional framework. It's about fundamental rights like free speech and the right to access, and access is a huge topic here. It's not just about having internet. It's about net neutrality, making sure ISPs can't slow down or block certain apps. It's about fighting against the walled gardens of the giant platforms. It also includes responsibilities, not just following laws, but actively protecting others from harm. From a technical view, that means not spreading malware, having good security habits, and reporting vulnerabilities. And crucially, it demands active participation, engaging in how these digital spaces are governed, not just scrolling through them.
Okay, so to give this big modern idea some structure, thinkers and tech folks have basically boiled it down to a model based on 3 foundational pillars. Let's break down what really makes up a responsible digital citizen today.
And this lays it out perfectly. First up, respect. At its core, this is simple. Remember, there's a human being on the other end of that API call. But on a technical level, it's also about respecting intellectual property, understanding copyright, fair use, and the whole spectrum of open-source licenses, from MIT to GPL. Second, educate. This one is all about moving from just consuming stuff to critically analyzing it. A modern citizen needs to get, at least conceptually, how their digital world is built. This means knowing what a recommendation engine is, how search rankings work, basically understanding that the information you get is the output of a complex system, not just an objective mirror of reality. And third, protect. This is the cybersecurity piece. It means personal security, using a password manager with strong, unique passwords, having two-factor authentication on, and getting the basics of encryption. It's knowing the difference between HTTP and HTTPS. It's about protecting yourself, and by doing that, you're helping protect the entire network for everyone else.
All right, let's move into our second section. And this one gets right to the heart of the AI-driven world we're all living in. We have to talk about that invisible hand that curates our entire digital experience, the algorithm. If the digital world is our new public square, then its very architecture is being engineered by these systems, and frankly, often with some really harmful side effects. Understanding this is a top priority for any digital citizen.
So, We have to start by tearing down a very common and honestly dangerous idea. There's this tendency, especially in our world, in tech, to see code and math as objective. We trust the output because, hey, a machine made it. But is that trust really deserved when we're talking about the algorithms that decide the news we see, who gets a loan, or even who gets a job interview?
This is the key insight right here. Algorithms are not, and they cannot be, neutral. That phrase, mathematical opinions embedded in code, is just perfect. Think about it. A machine learning model is the product of two things: the data you train it on and the goal you tell it to optimize for. Both of those are huge sources of bias. If you train a hiring model on 20 years of data from a company that mostly hired men, guess what? The model will learn that being male is a key feature of a good candidate. It's not being evil, it's just finding the patterns in the data you gave it. And then there's the optimization goal. Most social media algorithms are optimized for one thing: engagement. Clicks, likes, how long you watch. They are not optimized for truth or nuance or what's good for society. And that creates a system that naturally pushes sensational, emotional, and often polarizing content, because that stuff is super engaging.
And this focus on engagement has a direct, measurable, and pretty profound impact on all of us. It's fundamentally changing our information environment. So let's look at the mechanics of how that happens.
An algorithm that wants to keep you on a platform learns a very simple rule: show people more of what they already like. It's a classic feedback loop. You watch one conspiracy video, the system serves you 10 more. This walls you off from different points of view, creating what we call filter bubbles or echo chambers. And it can algorithmically speed up radicalization. And this isn't some theory. We're seeing its effects all around us. Beyond our feeds, this leads to automated discrimination at a huge scale. It's not just one biased loan officer anymore. It's a system that can deny millions of people based on proxies for race or gender that it found in old data. So what do? Our response has to be both technical and political. First, we have to practice critical consumption. Go out and find opposing views, use tools like RSS feeds that you control, and always ask yourself, why am I being shown this? Second, we have to advocate for transparency. That doesn't mean open sourcing everything, but it means demanding things like model cards that describe a model's biases or data sheets that explain where the training data came from. Policies like Canada's proposed ADA are a step in the right direction, trying to create a regulatory framework for exactly this kind of accountability.
Okay, let's switch gears and dive into our third section: the ongoing battle for privacy. In the real world, we kind of get privacy, right? We have walls, doors, laws. But online, the whole architecture is different. It's designed for disclosure, and the surveillance is constant, everywhere, and mostly invisible. Reclaiming our right to privacy is a massive challenge for us as digital citizens.
So to even begin to understand this fight, you first have to understand the business model that runs the entire consumer internet. It's an economic system that was pretty much invented in the early 2000s and has since become one of the most powerful forces in the world. And it has a name: surveillance capitalism.
This quote, "This is everything." On these free platforms, there's absolutely a transaction happening. We're just paying with our data. Every search you make, every place you check in, every like, every time you pause while scrolling, it's a data point. All this behavioral data scooped up, bundled together, and fed into machine learning models to generate predictions about what we'll do next. And those predictions, like what's the chance this user buys a car in the next month, that's the actual product. And that product is sold to advertisers in real-time auctions. We're not the customers. We are the raw material.
This is probably the line you hear most often, right? I don't care if they have my data, I have nothing to hide. But from a computer science perspective, that argument is just dangerously naive. It completely misunderstands what the threat is. The nothing to hide argument makes privacy sound like it's about hiding secrets, but it's not. Privacy is about control, it's about autonomy. It's the ability to choose what you share about yourself. In a world where massive amounts of data are being combined, seemingly harmless little data points can be pieced together to create a startlingly detailed and often wrong profile of you. This isn't about hiding, it's about preventing a huge power imbalance. When a company or a government knows everything about you and you know nothing about how their systems work, they have the power to sort you, to score you, and to manipulate you in ways you can't even see. Privacy is our defense against that.
So, as a digital citizen, you've got to know your rights. This chart gives a quick look at two of the big legal frameworks. Here in Canada, we have PIPEDA, which is all about meaningful consent. It gives you the right to see what data a company has on you and to challenge it if it's wrong. But Europe's GDPR is really the global gold standard. Its core idea is data protection by design, which means engineers have to build privacy into their systems from the very start. GDPR also gives people powerful rights, like the right to be forgotten, which is a huge technical challenge for companies, by the way,
and the right to data portability, which means you can demand your data in a format you can take to a competitor. These laws aren't just legal text, they are engineering specs that are slowly changing how software gets built.
All right, let's move on to our fourth topic, which really builds on this idea of responsibility. An ethical digital world has to be an inclusive one. And in our world, inclusivity is a direct result of accessibility. Digital accessibility isn't just some feature you tack on at the end. It's a fundamental part of the design process, it's a human right, and it's a core moral duty for anyone who builds things for the web. And this number really just drives the point home. Over 1 billion people. For a huge part of the world's population, the digital world is filled with barriers that just don't need to be there. A website you can only use with a mouse is a brick wall for someone with a motor disability. A video without captions is useless for someone who is deaf. A user interface that only uses color to give you information excludes users who are colorblind. This isn't some niche issue, it is a mainstream design failure.
You know, to really change our thinking on this, to see accessibility not as a chore but as a source of innovation, there's this amazing concept called the curb cut effect. It comes from city planning, but it has huge implications for how we design software.
This slide just illustrates it beautifully. Curb cuts, those little ramps on sidewalks, were originally put there for wheelchair users. But who uses them now? Everybody. Parents with strollers, delivery drivers with dollies, people with rolling suitcases. A design made for a specific disability ended up making life better for the entire population. And we see this everywhere online. Video captions are essential for users who are deaf, but millions of us use them to watch videos on our phone with the sound off. High contrast text is crucial for people with low vision, but it also helps every single one of us read our screen in the bright sun. A site you can navigate fully with a keyboard is a necessity for some, but it's also a faster workflow for power users who hate using a mouse. The big takeaway for any developer is this: when you design for the margins, you improve the experience for everyone. Inclusive design is just good design, period.
And, the responsibility here doesn't just fall on developers at big tech companies. The content we all create and share every single day is part of the fabric of the web. We can all play a part in making it more inclusive.
Here are 3 super simple, high-impact habits to build. First, whenever you post an image, add alt text. This is just a short description of the image that a screen reader can announce to a visually impaired user. It's the difference between them hearing image and hearing a golden retriever catching a red frisbee in a park. Second, if you share a video, make sure it has accurate captions. Auto captions are getting better, but they can still be pretty messy. Taking a couple minutes to clean them up makes a huge difference. And third, use camel case in your hashtags. A hashtag like hashtag tech AI and beyond is read by a screen reader as one long jumbled word. But hashtag tech AI and beyond with the capital letters lets the text-to-speech engine parse it correctly. These are tiny acts of digital kindness that have a massive collective impact on how usable the web is for everyone.
This brings us right to our 5th section, where we're going to flip the script from consumption to production. We've talked a lot about the systems that feed us information. Now let's talk about our role in that ecosystem. Every single time we post, share, or comment, we are acting as a node in the network, and our actions have ripple effects. The ethics of sharing are incredibly important in a world where misinformation can spread faster than the truth.
In an information environment that's just polluted with disinformation and clickbait, our most important civic duty is to not become an accidental amplifier of garbage. When you share something, you're endorsing it. Luckily, some really smart media literacy experts have come up with simple, effective ways to check information before we share it. And one of the best is called the SIFT method. So the goal here is to basically internalize this little 4-step algorithm for your brain. First, stop. Misinformation is designed to make you feel a strong emotion: outrage, fear, excitement. It's a hack to get around your critical thinking. If something makes your blood boil, that is a huge red flag. It's a signal to pause, not to share. Second, investigate the source. Is this a major news organization, or is it some random blog you've never heard of? Do a quick search on the source itself. Third, find better coverage. This is called lateral reading. Don't just stay on that one page. Open a few new tabs and search for the same claim on sources you already trust. See how they're covering it, or if they're covering it at all. And finally, trace the claim back to its original source. If it's an image, do a reverse image search to see where it first showed up. If it's a statistic, find the original study, not just the article talking about it. By doing this, we become a firewall in the network, not just another repeater.
Wow. Okay.
We have covered a ton of ground, from the basic definitions of citizenship all the way to the nitty-gritty of algorithms, privacy, accessibility, and checking our sources. So for our last section, let's zoom all the way out and try to pull all of these complex ideas into one core guiding principle.
After going through all of this, what's the one big idea we should carry with us every time we go online? What's the ultimate principle that should guide our actions, whether we're writing code, using an app, or just living our lives in this digital world?
And this quote just nails it. The systems we build and use are tools, and they're unbelievably powerful tools, capable of either connecting all of humanity or tearing us apart. But they don't have any built-in morality, no wisdom, no values. That part, that's on us. The wisdom has to come from us, the users. To be a true digital citizen is to consciously, deliberately, and continuously put our human values into our digital actions. It means choosing to build systems that are fair, private, and accessible from the start. It means choosing to treat others with respect and empathy. It's about remembering there's another person at the other end of every connection. Ultimately, it's about taking full responsibility for the world we are all building together, one line of code, one click, one share at a time.
Thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive today. I really hope this gives you a solid framework for thinking about our roles and responsibilities in this incredibly complex digital life. For more explainers on this critical intersection of technology and society, please subscribe to our channel, Tech, AI, and Beyond.